This is Tin Hawk's Journeyverse Journeys, Part 11. A challenge accepted. It dropped from the trees, falling 20 feet to the ground and landing solidly in front of the human. Absorbing the shock with flexed knees, it dropped its stealth and stalked up to the human, raising its own staff in salute. Oh, so the big boy wants to play with sticks, does he? The hyena grinned and shifted to a battle stance, staff extended towards the 7-foot-tall monster. The thing was waiting when the hyena made the first move, easily blocking the staff as it slashed for its head. The hyena responded with a reversal, bringing the metal pole back and striking out again at the creature's legs. It hopped easily over the strike, lashing out at the human with the heavy blades on its own battle staff. Not fast enough, the hyena taunted as he evaded the strike. The two combatants floated back and forth, driving strikes at each other, intended to maim, kill, or paralyze the enemy, but each always staying one step ahead of the other. The creature struck with a speed and brute force, often destroying the smaller trees that were in the way when the hyena evaded a strike. The hyena would respond with a speed and agility almost impossible for a human to achieve, coupled with a brutal viciousness that added to the damage of its attacks. As the battle wore on, the creature began to gain the upper hand, its stunning strength beating the hyena slowly into submission. It forced the hyena backwards, one step after another, until it tripped on an exposed root and was sent tumbling to the ground. Under its mask, the creature smiled, its alien smile, and moved in for the kill. The hyena twisted, trying to get to its feet, but the creature was on top of him already. As the creature's pike came down at him, the hyena struck it aside with elan, flinching as the blades drove themselves deep into the earth by his head. The two combatants grappled, their weapons useless in the close quarters of the fight, and again the hyena found himself inexorably losing the battle of the creature's superior strength. That was when the soldier's voice whispered to him, telling him what to do again. The hyena reached down at his ankle, drawing the blade that he had almost forgotten about in a slow and painful maneuver. The creature's talons were ripping at his throat, while the hyena drew back and jammed the carbon blade into the creature's thigh as far as it would go. It roared in pain, relinquishing its hold on the hyena and falling back to scramble furiously at the wound. The hyena was on its feet in an instant, kicking elan up into the air and catching the ancient weapon with a finesse that came with its natural agility. It lashed out twice, bashing the weapon against the creature's head and causing sparks to fly from the mask the creature was wearing. "Come on, ugly. I thought you wanted to play." Again he struck out with the staff, this time knocking the mask clean off the creature's head and exposing the creature for the first time. Its face was almost a caricature of horror, with 4 fangs at the corner of each of its mouth and an evil countenance. "Man, I was right on the dollar when I called you ugly." The hyena drew back to end the fight with one final blow, when a sudden wave of dizziness washed over him, causing him to stumble backwards. "Oh, hell," he mumbled as he staggered forward again, intent on finishing the fight before he weakened again. "What's happened?" The hyena's entire world went black, and he fell forward across the hunter's body, his own suddenly as limp as a wet noodle. The hunter stared in shock as the human stumbled. He didn't understand what had happened. The human had won. The human should have killed him, but the human had fallen. The hunter staggered to his feet and looked over the fallen prey for wounds, finding none that could account for the sudden collapse. It just stared at the body in puzzlement. The human had fallen, so the trophy was his by right. But the human had not fallen by his hand. Of this he was certain. Besides, the human was a worthy hunter, as powerful as any Yautja, and he would not disgrace so strong a hunter in that manner. Finally, the young Yautja knelt down and, with surprising gentleness, picked up the fallen human. No, the fallen hunter, and in an easy, loping stride, he turned and headed back in the direction of his ship. Yautja Spacecraft 2 days later. Xander groaned as his eyes flickered open. "Oh man, that hurts." He moved his head slowly to take in his surroundings. There was an odd mist drifting across the floor, and the room seemed constructed of archways. Where the hell am I? He struggled to sit up, his vision sparkling with white light as he did. When there was no answer, he tried to focus and search the room more carefully. Beside him lay Elan, looking like the weapon had been carefully placed by his side. He was still wearing the twin Colts and the rest of his gear, except for the Tonto knife that was laying at his feet, still covered in green blood. He picked up Elan and deactivated the weapon, returning it to its sheath. Elan, what the hell happened? He thought. The weapon's voice slipped back into his mind. You blacked out during the fight. Why did the hyena take over? Xander's mental tone was tense. Elan came back quietly. It was the only way to boost you high enough to be able to survive another fight. I did try to warn you. Next time, try harder. There was only silence in response, until finally Xander sighed and gave in. Why did the hyena, black out? That never happened the first time. When you were possessed by the spirit the first time, you were linked to the earth spirit that empowered it. This time it had only your own reserves to power the enhancement. I ran out of gas, Sanda asked incredulously. There was another long pause while Elan searched his mind in an attempt to understand the phrase. In its most basic form, yes. Xander stared, brooding at the wall for a long moment. So, where am I, anyway? That would be, as you say, the bad news. Huh? You're on a spacecraft that has been traveling away from Earth for almost 2 full days now. Elan waited for a response, but there was none forthcoming. First a minute passed, then 2, then 5. Finally she tried again. Alexander. Please answer me, Alexander. Don't call me that. My name is Xander, Elan. And mine is Lanthiel, Alexander. We're actually on a spaceship? Xander asked, very slowly. We are. Why? Elan was silent for a moment. That is a very difficult question. I'm not certain, but I think you impressed the creature. So he kidnapped me? Essentially. Oh, bloody frickin' beautiful. Xander had just finished checking his gear when he heard a noise from the far side of the room, near one of the open arches. His pistols cleared leather as his military memories prodded his instinct with an urgency he had rarely felt. He had to fight down the urge to open fire when the creature he remembered from the hyena's battle literally appeared out of thin air, a cannon mounted on its shoulder tracing a line through the air between them. Xander swallowed. This is real bad. Even if I can take him with a pair of 45s, I'd still be stuck in the ship. Shit. Xander twisted the guns away from the creature, pointing their muzzles at the ceiling, and then moving very slowly, he returned them to their leather. The 7-foot creature stalked closer to him, taloned fist reaching out toward Xander. Xander held his ground, forcing down the urge to run in fear. A single talon touched Sanda on the chest, and the creature spoke. Ooman, it rasped. Xander blinked. Human? Ooman. Human? Yes, I'm human. Sanda wasn't sure where this was going. The taloned fist retracted until the creature thumped itself once on the chest and spoke again. Yautja. Why do I suddenly feel like I'm in a National Geographic special? Elan's voice cut through his thoughts sternly. This is hardly the time to be flippant, Alexander. The Yautja is introducing himself. Do the same. Do you know these guys? Elan paused for a second. Yes, they were well known when I was alive, but none of them dared approach Earth in that time. Me and you are going to have a long talk soon, Sanda promised the weapon, as he stepped forward and repeated the creature's motions, touching it on the chest. Yautja? Yautja. Yautja. The creature seemed to nod, as if that was close enough. Next it tapped itself again. Rucha. Rucha, Xander repeated. Is that your name? Rucha. The creature tapped itself again, then touched Sanda questioningly. Sanda got it. He thumped his own fist over his heart and said, Xander. Sanda. Let's try that again. Xander repeated the motion. Xander, he enunciated carefully. Sanda. Close enough, he smirked, opting not to show his teeth. Maybe some of that sci-fi and fantasy I read will come in handy. This has been Tin Hawk's Journeyverse Journeys, Part 11. Links below.